An NFL insider gives some major Bills injury updates, and yet again, Bills Mafia is looking at Sean McDermott to find some sort of resolution to the never-ending injuries that continue to plague the Buffalo Bills. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bills Digest. Josh Schreiber here, and we got some bad news out of practice today, really just out of an insider that we are going to tell you all about, and why the Bills continue to stockpile injured players like it's nobody's business. And we are going to get into the weeds of all of this injury news, what it means for the team, and why this team has failed us. But before we do, we are in a race with Patriots Digest for who can get the most subscribers. Patriots Digest, they've got us beat right now with over 1,500 subscribers. We are just behind them with 1,400 subscribers. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because we're not only in a division race on the field, we're in a division race off the field with our friends over at Patriots Digest. Let's beat them with our subscriber count. So without further ado, after you've hit that subscribe button, we've got some news for you that came out this morning. Or really, I should say yesterday morning, in regards to both Dalton Kincaid and Landon Jackson, two players that sustained injuries in the game against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. As many of you know, Dalton Kincaid has been really the only guy on this offense that has really contributed meaningful routes and meaningful catches on this team. Obviously, James Cook has contributed in the ground game, not so much in the passing game. And you could argue, no, that's not his fault. They've got to scheme things up for him. I'm with you there. I agree. I think the Bills have underutilized James Cook in the passing game big time. With that being said, Dalton Kincaid in the passing game has been extremely underutilized. He has only been used less than 50% of snaps, and it's just inexcusable. When you have a guy who has been the only first-round pick the Bills and Brandon Beane have used on an offensive weapon since Brandon Beane has been at the helm, and he's not even seeing the field 50% of snaps. That is absolutely outrageous. But with this new update that I'm about to give you, we start to see maybe why the Bills have not used Dalton Kincaid so much, and it's because he can't stay healthy. Well, here is that big update. Source: the Bills tight end Dalton Kincaid is considered week to week with a hamstring injury suffered versus the Dolphins. Kincaid has been one of the Bills' top targets. He has 29 catches for 448 yards and a team-high 4 receiving touchdowns this season. Well, this is some big-time news, and I'm going to tell you exactly what this means to the team throughout this video, so make sure to stay until the very end. But Dalton Kincaid has been the type of player that has been able to get open on third downs. He has the route tree for someone that gets open on third downs, and he has just the size mismatch where he's a lot bigger than pretty much any defensive back on the field, really any defensive back on the field, and he's a lot faster than any linebacker is. So he provides a mismatch that the Bills have not been able to utilize enough. They have a couple games this season. Dalton Kincaid has been, when he's been able to be utilized well, like we saw against the Chiefs where he had over 100 yards, like we saw against the Patriots where he had over 100 yards. He has been really, really solid. And the eye test will tell you that he is capable of having big-time games, but Joe Brady just does not know how to use him in the passing game. Now, that is just one of the problems. Obviously, you've got to be able to scheme him open. You've got to have him on the field. But he's not doing his part because he is not staying on the field. And again, I hate to blame players for this, but it's the reality. He does not stay on the field. And you see it here in this tweet. The Bills seriously could consider trading Dalton Kincaid this offseason. You can't extend a guy you don't play 50% of the snaps, and you can use him to get explosive boundary receivers. That's a very fair point. You also can't extend a guy who gets hurt every season and misses significant time. So those are the things that really catch my eye when it comes to Dalton Kincaid. And I do think that you can see a team paying a healthy amount for a guy that has been so, effective. Here is a True Media report of passer rating when targeted and yards per target. Dalton Kincaid is having the best tight end season in the entire NFL. This dude is an absolute animal when he gets targeted, and Josh Allen is thriving when he throws the ball to Kincaid. That is all you need to know, and that is what Joe Brady has struggled to do. He's struggled to get enough of those targets Kincaid's way, and a soft tissue injury like the one he sustained at Miami is not necessarily a thing of, he's getting too many targets. It happened early in the game, so it has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's a strength and conditioning thing. Maybe it's a Dalton Kincaid prep thing. Maybe it's just bad luck. That is probably what it most likely is. But when he's on the field, he's not getting enough targets, and that needs to be something the Bills focus on when Kincaid comes back from injury. However, the Bills have more serious problems other than just Kincaid being injured. And that is with yet another defensive lineman injury. And another defensive lineman injury that could be season ending. It was announced that Landon Jackson tore his MCL and PCL against the Dolphins. The team is still evaluating a timeline, but a full recovery is expected for the third-round pick. Now, this is an injury that, it doesn't really affect the team in the short term nearly as much as some of these other injuries have. He has really struggled when he's been on the field. The Bills are 0-3 when he is active. They are 6-0 when he is inactive. That is certainly a statistic. With that being said, the Bills are not in the position where they can be picky about who is on the field at the defensive end position. As of right now, the Bills have 3 defensive ends: Joey Bosa, Greg Rousseau, and Javon Solomon. AJ Epenesa is hurt. Michael Hoyt is hurt. Ed Oliver, not a defensive end, but he's hurt as well. And now Landon Jackson is hurt. They are severely diminished at the defensive end position, and there's not much they can do because Brandon Beane, as we know, did not make a move at the trade deadline despite knowing that he had these injuries on the defensive front. It is inexcusable, but that is besides the point. The Bills needed depth, and they lose even more of it with Landon Jackson being out for, at the very least, several weeks. He's going to go on IR, but he will likely be out for the rest of the season. Really, really tough blow for the Buffalo Bills. And not only that, it just adds to the list of, bad things that have happened for this team. Here is a graphic of the top 10 NFL rushing leaders this season in a single game. I'm going to give you guys a second to look where you see a commonality. I'll give you a moment in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at the bottom numbers. Devon Achane, he's in 6th. Bijan Robinson, 7th. Derrick Henry, 8th. All games against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have sucked against teams that run the ball a healthy amount, and losing Landon Jackson and losing all of these guys on the defensive front are just making matters worse. You cannot sustain a good defense if you do not have depth on the defensive side of the football, and that is what the Bills do not have. It has plagued them this season, and that is why they continue to give up massive games to running backs of opposing teams. That's the injury report for you guys. Thank you for tuning into this video. Hopefully we'll have some more positive news to report on later in the week. But this has been Bills Digest. Josh Schreiber here. We'll see you later.